my name is Josephine, and today I'll be talking about the economic inequalities that pervade the Black community in the United States. Black activist groups, and yes, I'm talking about you, Black Lives Matter, like to focus on things that I consider to be non-issues. These include things like cultural appropriation, microaggression, or the theory that there exists some sort of white conspiracy created to keep Black people down. I mean, even if all of that were true and tomorrow we outlawed anything resembling cultural appropriation, banned the touching of the hair, and removed all white people from positions of power and replaced it with Black people, it still wouldn't explain or solve the income disparities between Blacks and whites. It still wouldn't solve the single parenthood in the Black community. It still wouldn't explain the crime rate in the Black community. When they do talk about these issues, the solution the Black Lives Matter proposes involves banning the police from public gathering, free tuition for Black students, and government reparations for Blacks and so-called marginalized groups. I mean, free money plays well with the public, and maybe it will have some sort of short-term benefit, but it will never amount to anything more than a band-aid solution. Now, in the United States, Black people as a whole make significantly less money than other races. Taking these stats at face value, it's difficult to determine what the cause of the disparity is. What we never hear, however, are the rest of these statistics. Well, because it doesn't fit your narrative that white people are oppressing Black people. The truth is, you can pretty much find statistical disparities in everything. Correlation does not necessarily have to mean causation. Look at the prison population by sex in America, for example. There are more men in prison than there are women, and if we treat the stats the same way we do the income disparities between Blacks and whites, then we can conclude that the prison system is sexist towards men. But we all know that's not the case. More men commit crimes, so more men are in prison. This video explains why Black Americans make less than other races by looking at the stats a different way than most people do. I'll also provide solutions that I think can improve the state of Black Americans today, and it's also going to be heavily based on statistics, so I hope you guys can keep up. The average household income for Black Americans is about $35,000, and for white, it's about $59,000. These numbers seem to be the only one mainstream media is focused on, but when you add education and lifestyle choices to the picture, the numbers start to make a lot more sense. So let me elaborate on that. First, white Americans do not have the highest household income. Asian Americans do, with an average of about $70,000. If minorities have no privilege, then why are they at the top of the household income? So the question in everyone's mind is, why are Asian Americans so much more successful? So let's start with education. According to Pew Research, 6.6% of people who complete some sort of college fall below the poverty line, and only about 1.2% of them stay poor long term. I mean, the point is that if you get a university or college degree, you basically have a ticket to an okay life. With that being said, white Americans have a 14% college dropout rate. African Americans, on the other hand, 31% dropout rate. And this is just in college. When I bring high school to the picture, you see even more of a disparity. 93% of Asian students graduate high school a year, 83% of white do, and only about 66% of African Americans do. So in other words, about 33% of African Americans are not even eligible to apply to college each year. In total, 61% of Asian Americans have a bachelor's degree or higher, 41% of whites do, and only about 22% of Black Americans do. I mean, the gap between these numbers go a big way in explaining the income disparities between each race. Now, if you still think racism is the reason why Black Americans are not doing so well, let's break down Black Americans to ethnicity. The average household income in the United States is roughly $51,000. Nigerian Americans, on the other hand, their income is about $62,000 a year. They have a much lower dropout rate, and 17% of all Nigerian Americans have a master's degree. So is racism selective to regional origin? Does a Klansman ask a Black person where they're from before deciding whether or not to hate them? Obviously not. The second cause of the income disparity is lifestyle choices. So we're going to start with crime. According to research, people with a criminal record have a much lower income than those without. They make approximately $19,000 less per year. I mean, since crime is high in the Black community, with over 50% of homicides nationwide being committed by Black Americans, I mean, it's not surprising to see the lower average income. Asian Americans commit about 1.2% of homicides, which again shows why their income is way higher. Another lifestyle choice involves childbirth outside of wedlock. Household income is calculated by adding the income of two parents. Now, 73% of Black Americans are born in the single mother household. In other words, only one income is being factored in when calculating their household income. White single mother households, on the other hand, is only 25%, almost the mirror opposite of Black Americans. Asian Americans, as another example, 17%. So 83% of Asian households and 75% of white households have two sources of income, whereas 73% of Black Americans only have one. I mean, digging a little deeper into the disadvantages of being a single parent, I found that about 51% of single mother households with two or more children under the age of 18 are poor. That's 51% compared to only 7.9% of married households being poor. Being a single mother with one income makes it difficult to put a child through school. Now, I'm not saying it can't happen, but it's difficult to raise a child on your own. And when you had high crime to that as well, there's less motivation for the kids to go to school because getting a good paying job with a criminal record is very complicated. It's a deadly cycle keeping Black Americans down. I mean, if you look at the stats by ethnicity, Nigerian Americans have a similar household income to white Americans. So what makes other Black ethnicities different? Well, the culture is different. I'm Nigerian and my parents immigrated here with no money and basically started from scratch. But now they're doing very well. They infused in my brain since I was a kid that hard work and education is the only way to make it in life. And because their hard work paid off, I took it as fact. They didn't even want to come to my high school graduation because to them it's not a celebration, it's just something you simply have to go through. I wasn't allowed to date until I was in university because at that stage they believe I was smart enough to make wise decisions. They have access to my GPA and check whenever they want to make sure I'm still doing well in school. It's annoying as fuck and I don't think I'll go that extreme with my kids, but being raised with that kind of mentality, I can proudly say I'm in a relationship that's headed to marriage. I will not have a child before I'm financially stable enough to have one, and I do not have a criminal record, and I'm in school studying to be a lawyer. I'm no success story, but at least I have potential to be because of my upbringing. Look, your life choices determine how well you do. There are 3 easy steps to almost guarantee a successful life. 1, stay away from crime. 2, graduate college with a good degree and not women in gender studies or African studies. 3, plan for kids wisely. In other words, only have kids when you're sure you can afford it. If Black Lives Matter really cared about Black lives, they'll be in the streets chanting, "Stop having kids before marriage" or "graduate school." They should be out there lobbying for a reassessment of the American schooling system in order to encourage better teachers to these predominantly Black neighborhoods. Or another solution is providing contraceptives or sex advice to women, or providing after-school programs to encourage Black kids to stay in school. Black Lives Matter is asking for free college tuition for Black students when Black students are not even graduating high school or not even applying for college. We have to start at the root of the problem. We can train a whole generation to not make the same mistakes their parents did, but we can't do that by yelling Black Lives Matter or getting angry when white people have dreadlocks. It doesn't matter if you think white people caused this or not. It's irrelevant to the solution, and blaming white people cannot educate Black Americans or reduce the crime. It comes down to the individual person, and until we realize that, there is no moving forward. These are the facts, and stating it gets me called a coon. I care about Black lives, and that's why I tell the truth. That's all for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Also, a big thank you to my Patreon supporters. I'm going to be messaging you this week, so look out for that.